Also, what I think is important is when your son or daughter is in rehab, it's very important as a parent that we get help ourselves. Part of recovery is relapse. So we have to know that it actually happened. And I knew when Bobby relapsed, I said, Bobby, okay, I understand. You don't have to hide this from me, but let's figure this out together.
Monica, I really want to thank you for your time, and I want to offer my condolences for what you've been through. And I wanted to ask you, what were some of your first thoughts when you found out that Bobby had died from fentanyl poisoning?
I was in shock because I knew he had relapsed. And I just 11 days prior, he had overdosed on campus and he survived. And he had overdosed before and he always pulled through. And we always were able to get treatment, he'd be sober. So for me to drive up and for me to be met at the same time with a white van, which was medical examiner, I was in shock. I was in panic. I was hysterical. I was broken.
I so appreciate your time, because I hope that this video will help a lot of parents out there. And my name is Candidly Carolyn, and I am recording these videos real, raw, unscripted, to talk to real people about questions that I think people really would like answers to. I know that this is fresh from April of 2024, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. So my name is Monica Vera-Schubert. I am in the health industry. I am the mother of two boys, Stephen, my older son, and Bobby, my younger son. Bobby, at the age of 15, like I said, he got, innocently enough, addicted to opiates when he had his wisdom teeth extracted. And that started the whirlwind. And also now, my mission is to protect kids, especially that are at college, and especially to break down the stigma.
I so appreciate that mission. And I know that's one of the reasons why you agreed to come on this video now. Like, kind of looking back, on the past 15 years from when he got addicted to the opioids to now. And what advice would you have for parents that are going through this process or starting maybe to see some of these addictions? And what would you advise for people?
Early on, his personality changed. The whole symptoms that are there, the friends, the behavior. The advice that I give to parents is, in the beginning, what I didn't do was I didn't come to him calmly. I got very angry. I didn't talk to him. I didn't listen to him. I just told him. Not until the last 6 years is when his and my relationship changed, where we had an open line of communication. That's why that made a difference. And that's why he was sober for close to 4 years. That's why he turned his life around. That's why he was able to get into UCLA and follow that's why, he's such a beautiful kid inside and out. Looking back, I wish maybe I would have put him in a different school. There's so much, but also as a parent, especially a parent that's lost a child, cannot be hard on ourselves. Cannot say coulda, shoulda, woulda, because you know what? That was fate. So now my son is an angel, and he's looking down. And a lot of changes have been made because of Bobby. So
if you could go back in time, and you said that you didn't come at him calmly and you didn't listen, how would you advise parents to work on that part before they go to the child? Like, what would you have done differently in retrospect?
So now there's a lot of agencies that help parents, basically parents. I was involved in one afterwards, and Bobby and I, it was called Partnership to End Addiction. At the time, I was a parent peer coach. So when a family's in a crisis, They don't know what to do, how to do. As a parent, looking back, I wish I would have had some guidance on what to do. I felt very alone, just him and I. And it's hard, especially when you have, families that are single moms, as I was. And so you're balancing as a mom, career, family, disease, because substance use disorder is a disease. Bobby had a disease. Looking back, I would advise parents reach out to these services. If you don't know how, call the schools. The schools have resources.
That's great. That's great advice. I think being a parent is the hardest thing that anyone will ever do. I have not done that, and I have great respect for parents, because I think it's just so challenging on so many levels, and especially being a single parent, extra challenging. If you were to, guide a parent on getting a child sober, which you did accomplish, what do you think were some of the best things that you did in that respect to get him in recovery?
When you go and you're looking for a rehab, it's really important to interview the rehab, because there's so many rehabs that are out there that sometimes they're not the best fit. Okay. So if they're not the best fit, that means that your child is not going to get the proper treatment like they need to be, because they need to be engaged. And there's been many times where a few days after, even a few hours, Bobby said, I'm done. I'm not going to be here. And then me as a parent, I'm freaking out. I'm nervous. I'm wondering, now what? Now what? And so for those parents that do have insurance, I would say contact your insurance, use the services that they offer so they can help you find a place and that's covered, because rehabs can be very expensive. I asked my son Bobby, because we would talk about this, and Bobby would always say to me, Mom, I was going to send you to this place and they wanted $50,000 for the month. And Bobby, he goes, Mom, it doesn't matter how pretty the place looks. It doesn't matter how fancy it is. It's just when you're ready, you're ready. It could be a small place. It doesn't matter, Mom. And I'm glad you didn't spend that money. He wasn't ready at the time. Also, what I think is important is when your son or daughter is in rehab, it's very important as a parent that we get help ourselves. Because what will happen is the kid will come out and they'll come into the same environment. Nothing has changed at home. Part of recovery is relapse. So we have to know that it actually happened. And I knew when Bobby relapsed, I said, Bobby, okay, I understand. You don't have to hide this from me, but let's figure this out together. And sadly, on that day, his addiction medical doctor said craving must have come on Bobby so strong that it took over his sense of making decisions correctly. And I get reminded every day, Monica, it's a disease. It's a disease. And Bobby knew, and my take on this is that I really want people to understand the stigma and how words can hurt, and how the stigma can shame a person from getting recovery. So if your son or daughter has confessed, has come to you, and you're now getting help educate the people that are around your son or daughter so they won't feel worse about themselves than they already do.
I know a lot of parents are struggling because they have one son or daughter that's going through a big, massive situation, and then they have still the other child at home. So how do you manage that and stay present, and when you're dealing with that huge situation, like how did you deal with that with your other son?
That's a really good question. They call that the other child syndrome, where the other child that's doing everything right, going to school, going to work, getting degrees, is doing everything right. But guess what? That other child gets ignored. Like, what about me? Because we're putting, at least with me, I was putting all my attention on Bobby because I needed to keep him alive, thinking that my older son, Stephen, would understand. But now I'm feeling the repercussions that he didn't. that he was traumatized seeing his brother hauled off many times in a gurney, going to the hospital, always being nervous that, he'd have to get that phone call. And I kept assuring him that he was never going to get that phone call, but he got the call. So, we have to not forget about our other kids, and we have to make sure they're in proper treatment, make sure that, we let them know that we reassure them, and I'm sure I'm speaking for others that when your child is using, they really don't want to be around the family. Then there becomes a rift, the arguments start. So I would say, even if it's individual therapy, is really important. And for the parents too, many times in the emergency rooms, I would be told, make sure you're getting help, for yourself. Because there's that statement, right? In the airplane, if they always tell you about the mask, make sure you give yourself oxygen before you help the neighbor.
Right.
So, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, it's so hard to do that. It's so hard to do that when we love someone so much and we're really focused on helping elevate them and helping them get out of that situation. It's really hard to do the self-care on ourselves. Again, I'm so sorry for your loss. I know that you're very, very passionate about what you're doing now. And I wanted you to just say like a couple of words about what you have been doing specifically at UCLA, which I find very inspirational. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about that.
I say Bobby passed because it's hard for me to say the D word. I don't say DIAD. I say my son passed. And I prepared my son and to put him to rest. And once I put my son to rest, the following week, I went to administrative department at UCLA because I wanted to understand why. How did this happen? Why did this happen? It didn't happen in the street. It didn't happen outside the campus. It happened on campus, inside the dormitory, in one of his dormitory room. I must have met with them 4 times. I went to the campus. To finally, I got to the vice chancellor. What I was told is that 3 other students prior to Bobby had passed away, same situation. And I asked what had been done. And the answer was, they just looked at me. And I said, Narcan has been available since 1971. Help me understand why there was no Narcan in any of the dormitories. And they couldn't answer me. I listened to the 911 call because I started going and doing my own investigation. And in the 911 call, it said that my son, the 911 call showed that my son was breathing. He was unconscious, but he was breathing. So the Narcan would have reversed it. The Narcan, my son's life. The Narcan would my son be here. So my understanding since then, they have started integrating Narcan in the dormitories, in the fraternities. It's all over. There is a Senate bill law that says it has to be on campus. There's also an Assembly bill law that said that every dormitory must contain 4 in the office and must contain 2 on every floor with the RA. And now, according to the head of student health, that is happening. And after, maybe 6 months after Bobby passed, there has been, according to this doctor, 17 reverses documented.
Wow.
And there has been a change now. The UCLA department no longer will dismiss a case such as this, as they did with me. Now I got the DEA involved. So the DEA came in to educate them on how to handle a fatal overdose. If there is a crisis with a student, they will send out a PET team. So the student will no longer be forced to walk in the doors and be humiliated. They will go out at more of a confidential way of doing that. Speaking to other students, UCLA is known to be a very isolating campus. So just getting the word out and letting them know that there is help.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I commend you on doing everything that you've done in such a short time. I have mad respect for that. And, to tell the audience, Monica does have a background in this type of field. So she's not speaking from a place of not understanding what the Narcan can do. And this has been a phenomenal change, just at least for UCLA. And I hope to see this, extending to other campuses. I know that's part of your goal, right? Is to really make sure that this doesn't happen to other families and kids if it could be prevented.
Yeah. So, because of this, I'm going to be forming I already started a nonprofit, and it's going to be called Remembering Bobby, and it's going to be mainly targeted on universities. And I've already started going to some universities, and I educate, and I get the students involved, so they educate. So it's like a trickle down effect.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Well, I really appreciate your time. And this is the time in the interview where you can ask me any one question that you want, or any kind of question if you so desire.
So how do you feel about the stigma, and how do you feel that there can be a change with substance use disorder?
Well, you have educated me so much when you even told me about using the verbiage substance use disorder. I really feel so in my heart about that makes sense. And I think that it's all about communication. It's kind of like what I've talked about before, that we're missing that human piece. We're missing that humanity. We're missing, getting together in real life and meeting with each other. That's how I met you at an in real life event, and actually conversing and sharing information. And I think kids today need that more than ever. I mentor students from UCLA. I really try to give back where I can. That's extremely important to me, because these kids need someone to talk to, just someone to share what they're going through, and a lot of times it cannot be their parent, so, and it's super important to have that adult figure that you can talk to about pretty much anything. So I really thank you for educating me on that, and really bringing this to the forefront, because I'm hopeful that this interview will go viral, so that people can really hear your story and hear what they can do to help one another and prevent this from happening to somebody else. I really thank you. I know this is a difficult topic, and I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, everybody. It's Candidly Carolyn signing off for right now. See you on the next one.
I'm Candidly Carolyn. Thanks for watching. If you know anyone you think I should talk to and ask the questions people really want the answers to, send me an email below, carolyn@carolynhorey.com. Bye for now.